Hey guys, um, just setting up stuff, but I guess we can go live. All right, um, welcome to the stream. We're going to be doing a couple more issues tonight. Um, so we're going to focus on work tab first because we've got one that we were supposed to do yesterday, we didn't get to round two, and there's a couple more ones that I've had a quick look at, and we should be able to fix some of them quickly. And Yeah, just get through a few. Maybe do something a little bit more quicker tonight. But first, I'm going to do some more shameless self-promotion and post in the Discord a little bit. So I have not actually received the proper role for. Somebody talk to me? Did they? I have actually received the proper role for. Right. I've received the proper role for putting it in the content creator bit, so I will do that. I'm still also going to spam modding a little bit. Live modding I know the link by now. It's twitch.tv/fluffier than thou. Without the name. That should be it, no? Let's find out. Yep, that works. Good. So that's up, and we can copy paste that here in the mod general setting, I guess. And just get people a little bit interested, and then we'll see what happens. Alright. Let's see what happens. It should be fun anyway. Okay, so we looked at the work tab at some point, and we fixed the first column, the labels. The buttons for that were not properly getting moved down. So if you clicked like one pawn, then all of the pawns above it also were affected. That we fixed, but apparently what we still have is that the like the visual overlays for the rows. So if you select a row or you hover over a row, then it gets a nice little overlay to show you, okay, this row is now currently active. Also things like pawns being incapacitated, that kind of stuff, they are apparently not getting affected, or they're all drawn on the first row from what I've seen from this. So yeah, this is the quick issue I made, but that doesn't have any extra information, so let's just quickly look at this one. That's not interesting. No. Because somebody actually posted a screenshot of this, so we can quickly look at what it's supposed to or not supposed to look like, I suppose. So that would be that one. So yeah, this row, this highlight should be much softer. I mean, yeah. And the highlight doesn't work on the other rows. That's also kind of it. So I'm assuming that they're all just drawn on the first row and it's not getting updated. It's probably a fairly simple fix. But let's get to it and see if we can find where the problem is. So I think this is being done at the end somewhere, because we can't do this within the scroll views because then they would get cut off. So I'm not actually sure where this is being done. So we'll have to look it up quickly. Yeah, so this is the line for pawn being down, and this is the one for the highlight of mouse over. So where is that happening? And draw the rest of the table, scrolls vertically and horizontally. That does mean that this is not actually getting applied to the label column, is it? Because we're drawing the label column here. Yeah. Oh, no. Is that it? No, that's just the line between cells. And this is... okay. No, so this is getting a line through if the pawn is disabled. So let's just look see what it looks like. We don't need colony manager. We do need the work tab. Ooh. Yeah, this is why you don't load save games where you've got a mod active and then just remove the mod. Oops. Anyway, it shouldn't matter terribly much. So yeah, these two are separated. It's not terribly much we can do about that because they're just drawn separately. But the actual bug report is about having multiple. So let's spawn in a couple of colonists and see what happens. La-di-da-di-da. Alright. Yeah, so the first one is getting all of them. The labels work fine. It's just that this column doesn't. Fine. Okay, so we know where to look then. That's fair enough. So we're looking in this area because this is the one that scrolls both ways. And we're looking at this row rect, and that row rect is probably just not getting its Z position set correctly. You would think. Why is that using a Z position at all? Yeah, that shouldn't be using a Z position because the Z position is always 0. The problem is that you're using... why are we using a vector 3? Is there a reason for that? I don't think this should be an intVec 3. This should be just an intVec 2, right? That would make things much easier. Oh yeah, because then you only have I think intVec 2 only has what does it have? It has X and Z and not Y for some reason, which is just... yeah, I know why it is. It's because Unity is primarily a 3D game engine, and then the Y-axis is actually like the depth or something, which is not normally something you particularly need. So Z is normally like up, and X and Y are on the horizontal plane. So then Y becomes the depth, and which is not technically all that relevant most of the time. I think that's what it is. I don't actually do any 3D development. Either way, that should be an easy fix because we just mixed up the labels there. So as long as we just use X and Y and not Z everywhere, then we're fine. It should be that should be fixed. Alright, let's update it. Let's restart the game. Would be really nice if RimWorld remembered where it was supposed to go. I did set up, Microsoft has the Power Toys these days, which is really cool. It's got a couple of fancy little tools in it, and one of them, the most fanciest of them all, is Fancy Zones. It means you can like predefine areas on your desktop, and then just drag windows into it and hold shift, and then it just expands to that area, which is really nice. I'm using it currently to have like a little private sidebar where you guys on my widescreen, and then the left side is the part where you can actually see, so I can easily expand things to be full screen for the audience. But yeah, I use it at work as well to just have multiple like sidebars and stuff like that going on. Let's just generate a new map for these quick starts. Right, that's been fixed. I kind of want to link these, because I don't like that these are discoupled from each other, and I know how to do this. It's a little bit hacky, but it's not that difficult, so I'm just gonna quickly fix that. But first, let's commit this, because that was a very easy fix, which is always very nice. So that's issue number 127. And we're in work tab. We made some changes and we fix row rect position. And that closes issue number 127. You can commit that, push it, and the issue should go away automatically. Alright, let's have a quick look at how we can do this. So basically what we want to do is we want to keep a record of which row index is currently being hovered over. So we need a static variable, or at least a class variable for this, that we can update every time we do the actual doWindow content function. Right, so we can make that private, because nobody ever needs to nobody should ever have to go into that. And this will be an integer, of course, because it's just an index, and this is just a hovered row. And we'll initiate that at -1. Then we can change these checks. Right. Where are we? This is the scroll area for the columns. We don't need that one. So on the label column, we want to see if we're over one of these. We should be adding the highlight. I'm not sure where that is happening. I'm guessing that is happening in this function normally. Yeah, okay, that's happening in a specific version of it. Sorry, I just quickly want to check something else. Hi. I didn't actually have my my dashboard open, so I can't actually see any notifications or things happening. All right. Yeah, so we've got Fridge Baron, Code Optimist, and LD2 here. Awesome. Good to see you guys again. Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying it. And feel free to say hi. I'll try and respond to chat and interact, and if you have any questions or something, just ask and I'll see what I can do about it. Yeah, or any suggestions or comments or just anyway, I'm fairly sure that the background thing is being handled in this this worker. So let's just break it out kindly. Hey Erdolf, you're back as well. Welcome back. I thought you wouldn't be here tonight. Anyway, it's great to have you here. Okay. That's okay. Yeah. Cool. So we have a minor problem because this is being handled in a different function. So I can either redo it. No, this is not such a huge problem. So I can say if the currently, so if somebody either is currently scrolling over or hovering their mouse over the right side of it, then we'll set the hover, yeah, that one. Why does that not show on the, why can't I do that? Oh yeah, because this is a static function. Silly me. Yeah, so if the hovered row is equal to the index that we're currently using, then we can also just print the so the hover effect. And if we look at widgets, highlights, let's just draw highlight. And that would be on this particular cell, which is it the label rect? We had some issues with this the last time, so I need to make sure that we're actually doing it correctly. But yeah, that should be the label rect. On the other hand, if we're currently mousing over label rect, so if the user is hovering on this side, then we need to let the right side of the screen know that we're actually where we think we are. So here we can just set the hovered row equals J. Right? Then I do just have to think about where I reset this, because I want to reset it basically after every draw. Which I might end up having to use two variables for this, but we'll find out. Because I think because they're following each other, if I reset it before or after, then they can't, like, only one, you know, there's only one direction that it can remember it. And if I go two directions, then yeah, it never resets itself. So I think I'll need two. So let's rename this one and call it hovered row label. Then we'll just add another one and hovered row content. And we'll figure out where to reset it afterwards. That's fine. Then we need to change this one. No, where is it? We need to change this one. So this is now if the hover is actually over the content. And here we set the label one, so that we don't need to change. Then we can move on down. So this is where we draw the content, and this is where we say which is draw highlight if mouse over. So we're going to break this out, and we're going to say if mouse is over, is over the row rect. Then we draw the highlight. Yeah, I mean, there's another condition where we draw the highlight. Because we also draw the highlight if the thing, but we need to keep that separately. Yeah, no, let's just draw the highlight. Draw highlights on this row. Fine, and we then need to say, okay, row content equals the row we're currently at, so that's J again, right? Yeah, that's hovering over, looping over pawns. Then we can also do this if the hovered over row content equals J. And then we do the same thing basically. So we do widgets, draw highlight, row rect. We can remove the original one. Right, so that handles both cases. Either somebody's hovering over the left side of it or somebody's only hovering over the right side of it, and either way, we've handled it. If somebody's hovering over the right side, then we're also giving a signal to the left side, and we're handling the signal on the left side over here. Okay, before we go in here, we need to reset the hovered row label. We need to do that before we do anything. So if this is, yeah, we shouldn't do that in the loop anyway. So we can just do this at the very start of this function. Because this needs to happen every time. The only way this does not need to happen is if we're in a different tab, so we don't want to touch the draw function for other tabs. And we also don't want to do it if we're not in a layout event, because then we would do it too often, because there's a layout event and a render event and a bunch of couple events in the UI event loop, and you usually only really want to use a layout one. To be honest, I've completely forgotten why, but hey, I remembered the important part. Anyway, we want to reset it, the label one here. And after we're done, yeah, after we finished with the label, we want to reset the content, because the content needs to go from the previous render, because we're rendering from left to right basically, and it needs to go into the next render and then get reset in the next render phase. So that gets a little bit tricky, because we need to make sure that we're out of any if statements. But that should be fine. Yeah, because we can just do it here, right? This is the label. This is not in any nested if statements. Yeah, so we can just reset it here. Content equals -1. I think that ought to do the trick. That should link them up. Made myself a little bit of coffee before. Just get that over here. All right, let's check that out. Beautiful, that works. It doesn't work in the other direction though, which is a shame. You can see there's a tiny, I don't know if you can see it on stream, but there's a tiny delay. So it takes a frame for the left side to catch up with the right side, which is theoretically you can fix that by taking the detection phase separately from the rendering phase. So we could do a loop first where we redo all of these scroll windows in the same locations and everything, and then we just check where the mouse is, and then we do the loops again to render everything. But I don't think it's worth it for what is a relatively minor function. What would be cool though is doing the same for the columns, and that should also be entirely possible. So let's look at that in a little bit. But first we need to figure out why this particular one isn't working. Oh. Yeah, I have a different issue for that one, and I think also a fix, but we'll have a look at that later. Yeah, not sure why that's not working. That should be working. So we've got the label column here. We're drawing them all fine, so this code is getting run. And we're saying if the mouse is over this label rect, then the hovered row label is J. which is the current index we're using. And that's just going as a loop over the ponds, which is exactly the same loop as that we're using down here. Yeah? I'm using the wrong one. Duh. Okay. I'm fairly confident that should now work. Yeah, that's working. There's no delay on this side, which is cool. There's a tiny delay if you go from the other side, which I can entirely live with. So let's check that in. So synchronize highlights between columns. All right. We should also be able to do the same for the actual worker. But this gets more tricky. Yeah, this gets quite a bit more tricky because we don't know in which row the mouse is going to be, or in which part of it. Does that matter? I was going to say, because if you look at it for every row separately, so for every single pawn, then you would need to sync them all up, and you don't know where the mouse is, so you don't know where like the synchronization starts and where you need to reset it. But we don't need to do that. We could easily add a single loop in here that yeah, that just loops over the columns quickly, and then just do the same thing that we did the last time. So just do the two-way synchronization. Just like I discussed, just to get the mouse position. It's again, it's a little bit more complicated, but this time there's no simple way to do it. So this is actually the simpler-ish way to do it. So I'm just going to label this quickly. This is synchronize row highlights, and then we'll need to synchronize column highlights as well, and it's going to be exactly the same basic paradigm, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, the same approach. So this is just hovered column label, and we'll initiate them at -1 again, and private static int. Hey OD Dylan, thank you very much. I should have wine as well. Code Optimist. Yeah, I'm actually doing this. So most of you probably will know if you've seen any of my my workshop mods. I've had a rough period. I've been struggling with depression as well. So I actually, I'm in therapy now, finally, good therapy. It took a long waiting list. Yeah, some less than ideal therapy, and now I'm finally somewhere where I feel more comfortable, and it's actually progressing a little bit. But the therapist actually encouraged me that I should go back to modding, because modding is one of the hobbies I used to enjoy, that I used to get energy out of, and the last half year or something I just haven't done it very much because I just couldn't work up the energy to do it. So I started doing that again, and then I figured, you know what? Why not just take it to the next level? I've been getting a lot of positive comments on just people noticing the little banner I put on Steam. So why not just put that in the stream? And just stream my modding and just get to know you guys a little bit better, and yeah, just get a little bit of community feeling in this as well. Also to keep me coming back and engage a little bit with more, and maybe sometimes also a tiny little bit put my my experiences out there. But I don't want this to be a stream about depression or anything, so I don't want to bum you out. I don't really want to get too much into that. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there. So yeah, let's catch up with the chat a little bit. Thank you very much, Odie Dylan, both for the prayers and for the compliment about my mods. I do try to keep my mods, to balance them, to make sure they're not overpowered, they don't ruin the game by automating too much, and just get a nice balance there. Code Optimist, I fixed the thing where you were not allowed to post links. So I think if you post a link now, my moderation bot is going to try and stop you, but I should be able to override that one. So we got one step closer. But let's just give it a try later, and we'll see what happens. I wish I had wine. Some wine might magically appear at some point, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what Twitch's guidelines are about alcohol on stream, but we'll find out soon enough, I guess. Fridge Baron, thank you. And coffee is good too, I agree, but wine is good. Maybe some whiskey in the coffee. Right. Yeah, I've seen other streamers drink alcohol, but they also sometimes joke that it's not actually alcohol. It's completely see-through and obvious, and I figured as much, Fridge Baron. But yeah, good to see you here. Glad to hear that, Odie. Well, that's yeah, okay, that's good to know. I wasn't planning on hurting myself. All right, so you can't get slam drunk and run into the walls or something. That's good to know. All right, let's continue doing what we were actually doing. So this is hovered column content is also initiated at -1. This is good research, Code Optimist. Thank you very much for that. I might very well need that later. Right. So this is the label column. We don't actually care about that one. We care now about the for the rest of the columns. So these are the horizontal labels, so the work type labels, or the column counts labels, whatever. So we're going to do pretty much the exact same thing again here, and say that I'm calling this column highlight sync, and if the mouse is over this block, this rect, then we set the hovered column label to index I this time, and vice versa. If the hovered column content equals I, then we can also give this row a highlight. Or this column, I should say. Column label in this case even. Again, after this loop, we want to reset the hovered column content, because we don't need it anymore. We've done with it what we wanted. I got those sounds. I'm actually looking for them myself because I want to use them for my my stream now. I made those ages ago. I don't have the files anymore. So I just have the YouTube version. I'm pretty sure I got them from freesounds.com or org or something, which is like unlicensed sounds. And I'm pretty sure that if it wasn't, then YouTube would have copyright claimed them by now. But I honestly don't know which and where exactly anymore. I have to look through them. I'll let you know if I do find them, because I do plan on looking them up again, and I do want to do it properly this time and give some credits if I do use them again. I still need to do my end screen anyway, because I also I got these nice screens, if they're working. Yeah, there they are. It's that coffee pot. I think it's awesome, but I didn't make that, so I need to credit the artist for that one. I've got that set up. I need to figure that up and set it in the end credits or something, but wasn't very important at the moment. I know. I'm a creator myself. I should care more about this, but yeah. Anyway, so we don't care about the label column here necessarily much more than if we are actually in this column. So if we're actually hovering here, then we do want to highlight that one. So that should also be reflected here, because here we're looping over pawns. And yeah, this loop we start at 1. So we started at the first column. We skipped the label column in that one, because the label column is frozen. So this is the label outrect, and we can just highlight the entire damn thing. So if hovered column label equals 0, then we can highlight this entire column. And that's the label outrect. Yeah. Also, it's a hug in a mug, representing my university. Alright, that should do the trick to that extent. Then we don't care about any of this anymore, because that's just the rows. And then here we start caring again. So here we're looping over the rows, and then within the rows we're looping over the columns to do each individual cell. We can't do that. We can't bother with that, because that would be terrible and take forever. So what we're going to do instead is take this table outrect. No, I do want to do this in the scroll wheel, because otherwise I have to keep track of our scrolling position, which is something I don't want to bother with. So we'll do it within that. And then here we just want to do another loop and basically just copy this one, because we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just not... Right. That should be fine. Empty for loop is redundant, and we should use var keywords. Yeah, I don't really care. Okay. So we're going to loop over this. We need to make rects for each we need to make a rect that fills the entire column for each one, both to be able to draw a highlight in it, and also to be able to draw the or to check if the mouse is in the entire column. I'm just thinking in my head again, do I actually need to do this? Yeah, I do actually need to do this. So where are we making the cell rect now? Are we just recomputing it every time? So yeah, we're using the cached row heights. We don't need that one. Using the cell width, and we're keeping track of position there. And the cell width. All right, and the final one is just right. Is it the final one just fills up what is whatever is left of the stream, or the tab width basically. So let's rename this column with yeah, so if it's the final one, then take whatever position we currently had and start over. So we need to reset this to 0 as well first. Then we can create the rect. Just copy this entire thing because that's this is the column with pos y should be 0, but it's not going to be in here. So what do we initiate pos y at? Oh no, of course, y is the row. Yeah, it should be starting at 0. Where is it initiated? I'm failing to find it at the moment. Right, so this is scroll area for the rest of the columns. I was looking at it, wasn't I? No, I wasn't. I'm not that much of an idiot. Alright, that's good to know. So I just don't need to touch that. Don't bother about it. Don't worry about it. This starts at the first row and it continues. It should continue onwards. Let's just see what happens. We'll find out soon enough. We don't need to do the cell or do the thing, and we just need to column width. Advance the position for the next one. So this is shade row height. We also don't need that one. We want to use the entire height of our outrect, I guess, because we don't need to use anything more. Is that going to work? That should work, but let's find out. So this is the column. Let's do our logic. We want to know if the mouse is over this one, then we draw the highlights, and we set hovered column content to K. Or if hovered column label equals K, then we also draw the highlight. I think that should do the trick. Just one last thing we need to do, and that's after here we can reset the hovered column label because we don't need it anymore. Ooh, Rimworld learned. It's restarting in the correct position. Aha! We've got a couple of new viewers. I'm just going to call you out, and if you want, you can feel free to ask any questions. Yeah, any questions, any comments, just feel free. So we've got Commander Root, who I'm pretty sure is a bot, because he's keeping around all the time, and I think I actually looked at his Twitch page, and he's just doing something. But we've also got Crafts and Windsock, so welcome here. Good to see you. Code Optimist, the restarting thing is a hidden feature in Huxlib. I don't know if you are being sarcastic or if you actually didn't know about this, but Huxlib has a keybind which is not set by default. Wait, that's the wrong one. Where are the key bindings? Keyboard configuration, which is restart RimWorld, which is terribly useful. Yeah. So, well, now you know. So it just closes whatever you're doing now and then restarts it. And obviously Huxlib has the quick start stuff going on as well, which is also very useful to quickly load into a game and everything. So yeah, that's a great tool. That's one of the main reasons why I develop with Huxlib active. What else was I talking about? Oh yeah, the starting in the correct position. I'm thinking that might actually be a feature of fancy zones, because I'm using that at work to. So let me just show you what that is. So this is Microsoft Power Toys, which is, I guess, some Microsoft developers just having fun or something. I don't know. But you can create zones. So I can just add this, where you want windows to pop up. So let's just say I want it over there or something. And then you can hold Shift, and it highlights the zones, and it just puts them in there. And one of the options is to remember, so yeah, move newly created windows to the last known zone. So I have a sneaky suspicion that that's actually the thing that's forcing RimWorld to go in the correct position, because it certainly didn't do it yesterday. Anyway, let's check if my my work worked. And it didn't, or it's completely overwritten. No, I don't think it did. Well, that one does. Right, I'm not setting the positions correctly. But it's a start. What the hell is that? That sure as heck didn't happen last time. Alright. Interesting. So it looks like the sync from the label to the content is somewhat working. I'm just not setting up the content recs properly. So this is not getting updated properly, which means that probably this one isn't. Oh no, I'm just resetting the position within the loop because I'm an idiot. Yeah, bug testing is awesome. It's especially nice that you can't hook up a profiler or something. Or I've heard myths of people being able to set up a profiler and like a proper debug environment and everything. I've never been able to do it myself. I'm told you need like a custom version of the Unity executable, and then you can make it happen or something. And while it would be terribly useful, yeah, I'm just not inclined to take the effort to actually implement that and get that working and set up correctly. I'm lazy like that. Anyway, let's check if that worked. That seems to have worked. Okay, cool. So now, yeah. So the sync this way works now. That's cool. I like that. This is a pretty cool effect. The one for the first column doesn't work at all. Just yeah, because I need to implement that in there. Yeah. All right. So this is I can do something about this. There you go. That should work. Awesome. All right. Well, you have permission to post a link now. Wait, you use debug write line and debug view plus. So debug view plus is a mod. Never heard of that one before. No, it's definitely not that. Debug log, no, this isn't it. I'm missing something. It's a Windows thing. Okay. So I guess it is this one then. Okay, that looks complicated. Yeah, this is just standard pictures of RimWorld stuff. That's not helpful. It's a Windows 10 thing. Okay. So debug write line is just so that's gone completely out of Unity basically, and you're just using the C# API to do things. Is that, am I understanding that correctly? And then you use this. Apparently, it didn't work very long. In the meantime, it slightly annoys me that the columns with just an icon are getting highlighted fully when I do it this way, and only half when I do it that way. So this is a different rect, I guess, then. That's just text. Oh yeah, that's the one I was looking at before. Alright, so these are then the messages that are getting sent. And that's probably more complicated messages than I would ever send. Okay, that's interesting. Is that... yeah, I guess it is better than the remote log. I'll have to have a look at that at some point. But probably not right now. Yeah, because I guess it also hides it from like RimWorld. Because what I do now in like more complicated mods, I have I have some utilities to do logging. So I've got this logger, and it's got a couple of helper functions that I can use. So I can just do logger debug and trace and whatever, and assert to check if things are not null, because that's always an issue. Yeah, and it gets stripped out when you release build, because it's just it's conditional compilation. And my release script is set up so that if I do it this way, so this is just when I compile, then after that my release script runs in like update mode, and it compiles in debug. And when I compile for release mode, it compiles in release. So I don't even have to keep track of it. I can't accidentally fuck that up anymore, because that was a thing in the past that I accidentally released mods with giant amounts of log debug code in there, and people would just actually get lag spikes because I was debugging so much. And that's one Reddit poster that managed to stack up a 3 gigabyte output log file, mostly with stuff that I spammed. So I was feeling slightly bad about that. At the same time, also impressed. There's 3 gigabytes of text is a hell of a lot. Anyway, what was I doing? I was looking at the work tab, and I wanted to look at if I can fix this discrepancy going on, where the highlight for this one is dependent on a different bit of it. I guess I also need to click specifically on that little bit to sort it, which is a little bit annoying because here you've got a lot more space. So I think I'll try and fix that if I can. Not sure I can. I probably can't fix the sorting because that goes into the actual column code, which I don't particularly want to do because then it just gets massively complicated. So maybe I'll just leave it as it is. And frankly, this one doesn't need sync. So maybe I should just leave it the way it is now. This is fine, right? This helps, especially if you've got a giant tab. It helps you figure out where you are. Yeah, I'll just leave it like this. This is working. I'm happy with this. Did I forget to do anything? I feel like I forgot something. So if I did forget something, please let me know. A celebratory drink. Yeah, that would be nice. I still have a little bit of coffee left. But... cold coffee. Yes, there's a range where coffee is good. It's too hot. That's nice to smell and to hold, but not nice to drink. And there's a kind of a large range where it's great. I love coffee. And then at some point it just crosses over and goes into disgusting. Okay, sure. Yeah, frozen coffee and stuff is great, but I find that you do need to actually you need to make it specifically for that. You need to do like a cold brew and a slow brew, and my fiance actually makes a beautiful cold brew, which is very nice in the summer. But just normal coffee cooled down is just gets bitter. It's not nice. It's not good. All right. Right, fair enough. I'm in the Netherlands, so we get cold. It's around 0 at the moment, degrees centigrade. I have no Celsius. I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit. I don't know what you use in Canada actually. I think you went metric, right? But not for temperatures or something? I don't know. You do Celsius. Very good. It's the only system that makes sense. It's interesting though, because it's... Oh gosh, this is a different bot again complaining about it. Is it? You can just use... Yeah, well, I'll figure it out later. It's not terribly important right now. I was committing this work, and this might be vanity, but I just want to see what I called the previous commit, because they have to match. It's like vertical, horizontal, so it should be the same. Synchronize highlight between columns. Was it? It's not really, technically. Oh well, let's call this rows then. We've got them labeled exactly the wrong way around. Nobody will notice. Alright. Let's get rid of that. Let's look at some other issues for WorkTap. Because this wasn't actually an issue. So, kind of did work I wasn't supposed to. Oh, this I love. This is somebody giving a description, a problem that is actually already in the mod. That's always beautiful. Because he's asking, his problem is that if you expand the little subtypes, you click that button and that expands all of them. But if you'd bother to read the tooltip, I'm very sorry if you happen to read this, but seriously, dude, read the tooltips. You can control-click headers to toggle expanding individual priorities. And it also says it here, I think. I guess it doesn't. I should probably add that there. No, it does. It just only says it for columns that you can actually expand. So that's fine. That's perfect. So yeah, you can control click that and that works. It's also good to see that this actually works for our synchronization as well, which is beautiful. Yeah, this is why I need the news feature from Hugslip. I need to find something I can use without actually having to include Hugslip, because I don't want to make Hugslip a hard dependency, but I do want to point out to people what new things are happening. Because I can put it in the change notes and everything, but nobody ever reads the change note in Steam. Most modders don't even fill them out, so why would you? But then oftentimes new features just get ignored, or people never know they actually exist, which is kind of, yeah, it's just a shame. I mean, this one people will notice because it's pretty obvious. But yeah, I mean, just having a window pop up for people once. Yeah. I know, I also like it. I mean, some people abuse it and they do it for every tiny little thing, but it's really great. I'm seriously considering just going for Hugslip. But I don't want to. I may have to just copy out that bit and like make my own version that hacks into Hugslip if it's available, and otherwise does its own news pop-up. That might be a future project at some point. Anyway, so let's give him a polite reply. This is also 3-4 months old as well, but happy to hear this feature is already in the mod. Use a control plus click to expand new columns that have sub jobs. I never know what to call them, because technically they're called work types and work givers, but nobody understands what that means. So then you talk about jobs and tasks, or jobs and sub-jobs and whatever, which is fine until you get to the point where I'm also talking about colony manager, and then you're talking about colony managing jobs, and then the actual assignments or designations and everything. Oh gosh, it gets terrible. I try to keep it straight, because not confuse people any more than is strictly necessary. But yeah. Anyway, we can close that one. Two issues down. This I'm not going to fix because I need to work together with what's his name? The guy who did the active the better pawn control mod, which is a nice mod. It's just a little bit annoying because I'm overriding the tab and need to hook back into it. And we both need to make some changes, so which kind of means that we need to work on it together, but our schedules have just never met up. Default priority to 9. Yeah, I think I had that at some point as a mod option. So in the work tab, you can change the levels of priority, this stuff, but not the default option. Why did I change that? I think I changed that because I'm not actually assigning defaults myself anymore. I'm just taking them directly from what the game gives me. So this would be a pawn priority tracker, I think. Yeah, so this is where I create them. for each work giver, dev work giver, and dev database work. Yeah, so this is for all of the work givers in there. I have to add a new work priority, and work priority is basically just a list of 24, right? One for each hour. Yeah, that's just an array of ints. So I'm giving that a tracker and a work giver. Yeah, so this one should actually assign it. So what parent prom get vanilla priority or 0? And what does get vanilla priority do? So Code Optimus says, one of my mods actually fixes bugs in Better Pawn Control. Figured I fix it first, write a proper pull request second. Yeah. Yeah, I tend to do that as well. If I really like a mod, but as there's just a couple of things that I want to fix about it, I just clone it and make my own version. And then if I like it enough to share it back, I do a pull request. I did that with what was it called? It's a mod that adds like better shelves and stuff. Expanded storage or extended storage or something like that. It's one of Scullywag's mods. But it wasn't syncing them up, so you could put one type of thing in that in these kinds of storages. But then it wasn't actually looking at other storage units to see if we could merge them. So at the point where I did the stack merging behavior for just general stockpiles, I also made the same implementation for the those baskets and shelves and whatever. But yeah, learning how to mod a mod via mods. It's basically just more Harmony patches, right? I mean, Harmony just allows you to do everything. It's freaking amazing. Anyway, we were looking at where we get the default priority from. So I'm pretty sure we're getting it from, yeah, vanilla. So this is where we try to get the. So this is just a list, or I think it's well, we can find out what it is easy enough, because we're looking at pawn work settings. So yeah, that's just a list of work givers, I think. Which one was I looking at? Yeah. Yeah, it's in vanilla work settings. Yeah, that makes sense. Just priorities. Okay. Why am I not even seeing that? Because I'm blind. Yeah, it's a def map. That's what I thought. Didn't say it, but trust me, that's what I thought. Coincidentally, the def maps are broken because they store information with the assumption of the definition database remaining constant. So if you change anything in your mods that adds or removes any def that the def map assumes is there, so work type, work giver, all that kind of stuff, it breaks the entire thing. It doesn't recover, it just errors and continues erroring. So that is the reason that you can't add or remove mods that change the work givers or any jobs during a running game. And because I don't actually use them, and I revert back to a 0 if this vanilla part errors out. You can with my work tab. Isn't it great? Yes, I know. Anyway, so we're just getting the value there. Then we're saying cast this to a def map. Oh, this is me using old school reflection. You have to do all of the safeties and everything. You could do this so much easier these days with Harmony. Yeah. And this is just me giving a message. This is basically me bragging, saying like, yeah, you know, I know you did something you weren't supposed to do, but I'm gonna fix it for you. And this is just something that should never happen. The vanilla game always assigns a 3 as the default. So it should be fairly easy. It's really straightforward to just check, okay, if it's not 0, then we give it whatever we've defined as the default. So sure, we can do that. We'll add a public static int. We call it a default priority, and we'll initialize it at 3. Let's see if that does anything then. I think maybe it doesn't work because I'm using the restream thing. If I do it there, doesn't seem to have done anything. I'll have a look at it later in Code Optimist. No, still complaining about it. I mean, it's letting you do it though, so I'm not really sure. It's just saying please refrain from doing it. So I'm assuming that maybe after a little while it's going to start banning you or something. No idea. If it does, I'm sure I can unban you somehow. I can make time for that. I mean, you're one of my only viewers, so hey. I want to keep you hanging around here. It does. It hides all your chat from everyone. So, yeah, I mean, I can still see it at least. So, if it is shadow banning you, then it's only shadow banning you to the rest of chat, which would be kind of awkward because then everybody's thinking like, who the hell is he talking to? But I don't know. We'll see. I was adding the default priority thing. So these are the various options. Draw window contents. We have one already here for, yeah. Yeah, we need a buffer because of the way string fields work. But this is not... yeah, we'll initialize that. So the way alright, well, at least Fridge Baron can see it, so that's good. What is better Twitch TV anyway? Yeah, back to business. The way these text fields work, is this something I did, or is this real? Or real? I mean, vanilla. I think this is vanilla. Alright, so this is already a wrapper around it, so let's not get too much into it. It's going back to widgets text field numeric, which is again vanilla, and at some point it's going to a true text field. It's parsing. I think this got changed. I don't recognize much of this. Yeah, set next control name here. GUI text field. This is where the magic happens. So this is basically just a function. And that's the funny thing about the whole RimWorld UI, which is using the immediate mode GUI, so the graphical user interface system, which is basically programming UI. It's what Unity uses for the actual Unity Studio, so the development environment, but what you normally wouldn't use in an actual game. because normally you'd use some kind of object-oriented thing where a button is an object and then you can attach an on-click event to that or something, and then something happens. But that's not the case in the way RimWorld UI works. So in RimWorld, you can use a button literally as an if statement. So it's just if widgets button, you give it some kind of rect or whatever, and then something happens. So it's kind of difficult to wrap your head around that sometimes. Because it means that this basically happens every single frame. So every time you draw your screen, this entire function gets drawn. So it doesn't have state as such by itself. And what that means for text fields is that every time the text field is rendered, it's updating the value. So you need to have some kind of in-between between your actual value and what is currently being typed, because otherwise it would constantly get updated. But if you're typing in an integer text field, for example, it would lead to strange situations where you can't type anything that is not valid at all, and it wouldn't give you any output for that or something. It just instantly reset it again, or instantly lead to errors because you're trying to force a string into an integer or something. So you need like this buffer in between, and then you can check if the buffer is a valid value, and then you can assign it back to it and stuff. But to be fair, this is new to me. I think this got changed in a recent. Yeah, you'll run into it sooner or later, and it takes a little bit of a switch turning, and then you'll get it. But this is new because I actually used to have some helper functions doing different type of text fields. I think they've just now been wrapped into the standard widgets. And this is vanilla, right? This is not my widgets thing or something. No. Anyway, we can close that. Yeah, we can't actually save that because that's not mine. Is it? Maybe it is. Like I said, I do have some of my own, my own widgets. But that doesn't appear to be one of them. Just checking. No. Yeah, it's fun to do that kind of stuff. Once you get the hang of it, it's really fun to do it. And I sometimes actually use the Unity defaults because the way Tynan set up the wrappers around it and the widgets are not always entirely straightforward. Anyway, let's get back to what we were doing. We can just copy that one. We just need to create a different one. Field numeric labels for an integer value, and that label is going to be work tab default priority translate yeah, so this is the actual value that we want to change. That's the default priority, and this is the buffer that we want to use for that one. We've got the minimum value is going to be 1, the maximum value is going to be 9, and we need a key for the translation for the tooltip. This is default priority tip. Translate. And we should probably set this to the same so it looks nice. Not sure that's actually necessary, but couldn't hurt. Okay, and I'm pretty sure we need to actually expose that because otherwise it won't get saved. Describe values look ref default. No, not a recipe. Ref. Default priority. And we need to give that a default value, so when it tries to read the settings now, it doesn't find anything there. which means it's going to assume that there's a default value, and if you don't set it, it's just going to default to the default type, or the default value for that type, which would be 0, which would override what we have at the moment, I think. Or it could just leave it as it is, but I'm pretty sure it would override it with the whatever the default is. So we need to explicitly set a default value of 3. And that also means that if people don't change it, it doesn't actually get saved, which is nice. Okay, so that's the setting part of it hooked up, and then we need to make it actually do something. So we were looking in the work priority. Yeah. And then basically we want to make this a little bit more complicated. You know what? I technically I should. It doesn't really matter. I could just do. I'll explain in a second. So if this priority is greater than 0, then priority equals settings default priority. That's it. Technically I don't need to assign it the vanilla priority at all. I should just check what the vanilla priority is and then just assign it the default priority. Yeah. Yeah, screw it. Then I need to make a very long tertiary operator to do that. I don't want to do that. This will work just fine. Okay. Oh, you want to know something awesome? I work with TypeScript at work. This is awesome for me. It may not be awesome for you guys. They've added no propagation and no coalescing. I think that's the double question mark thing, right? To TypeScript, which is just so amazing. You used to get these super long if statements because you needed to check every step in like a long chain of nested objects and stuff. And now you can just add a few question marks in there and you're done. It's so much better. I don't remember C# before it had any of that. It's always had it, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, I can feel your pain because I've gone through it with TypeScript. Anyway, so we need to set this to numbers. These were already created before, so those won't have changed. And besides, our defaults are still at 3. So we should now have an option. Yeah, this is not translated yet. Whenever you see these, like the weirdified text, that means it's a translation key that hasn't been translated. But we'll get to that later. So if we did set this at 6, yeah, it's not really visible if this got updated or not, but we'll just assume that it did. Didn't get any errors, did we? No. Now, if we add a new pawn, we should get some priorities at 6. So vanilla is going to set some of the priorities that match that pawn's skills or lack of skills to 3, and then we change that 3 to whatever our default priority is. So let's see if this worked. Damn it. Why hasn't that worked? Bugger. Well, first of all, let's check if it's actually persisted the setting or if we're just doing something silly here. So in work tab, show settings, that's still set to 6. Yeah, it's something I used to have in the past, but then I changed the way that the job priorities were saved and generated in the first place. And I decided, like, I don't need to bother with setting the priorities myself. I can just use whatever Vanilla gave me, or if Vanilla gives me nothing, I'll just use a 0. That's just the easiest way to set it up, which worked just fine. But I'm not sure why this isn't working, because this should just work just fine. Um, hmm. I just need to check if why you grayed out. Use other property. No, I don't want to. Let's save that, right? It's not something silly. If I'm accessing the settings correctly, because there is something special about that as well, which I may have forgotten to do. And otherwise we can just add some logging to it and find out what happened. Just give this one more shot. Oh yeah, I shouldn't be doing that. I don't think it should matter. Yeah, it's getting initiated with 3. Okay, so that's not working. So this is where we're doing it, and let's just add some logging here. Initiating work tracker. This is going to be spammy as fuck because it's per work giver per pawn. So for every pawn, this is going to be like 20 different things. More. So let's just not mention the actual work giver that we're using. So that the game can just combine the log messages that are the same. Our priority equals priority. That would just be the vanilla priority, and then default equals settings default priority. Before I test that, I quickly want to see how I did it with the other things. So I'm referencing, for example, the maximum priority somewhere in the work giver extensions, I think. Max. Oh wait, I'm in the settings file now. Ugh. Oh goody. Because it's not that, it's that. Where we're now? Yeah, settings max priority. So this is just how I'm referencing it. So that should be fine. That's not the problem. Okay. Then we've got the this work giver priority tracker thing now has some logging, so we can see what's going on. Let's start with that. I'm guessing there's a step in between somewhere that I'm missing, or I don't know. It's weird to me. I don't understand why this is not working. Which applies a lot of the time, but it's still defaulting to 3. Okay. So wait, it's creating them? It's creating them before it's setting them. So when Vanilla creates these work trackers, it's somehow first triggering my code where it sets everything to 0, and it doesn't recognize that these is going to be some other default, because it's setting everything to 0s, but obviously it's not. It's setting some things to 3s. So it's creating them, and then the vanilla code is setting some of it to 3s. So let's see how it's creating these things. So we're looking at, to go to the vanilla priorities again, and then we're looking at the vanilla upon work settings thingies. So this is the constructor for it. This is where it gets the things, expose data, enable and initialize. This is where it creates it. This is where it sets everything to 0. This is where oh god, yeah, I don't like this. This is making things complicated. So this is where my work tab takes over, because this, I'm pretty sure, is going to loop over. Maybe not. I was going to say this is going to loop over all of the things in the dev map and then call the set priority function on them, which I hijack, and then that would cause my my mod to get called. But that's not actually what's happening, because this is a dev map function, so that's not what is going on here. Then here we're going over the work types. So this is what I was afraid of, but so it is setting, it's creating the dev map. Yeah, no, I know what's happening. The first time it calls set priority, my mod first needs to find the current one, and it can't. So then it just defaults everything to 0. And after that, vanilla sets it to 3. So how am I going to fix that? So one option is to break into this. Use some Harmony magic and change this particular part to just use the default priority. That would be one option. I think that might even be the easiest option. We've got Erdalf in the chat, actually, Smashville. First of all, welcome to the chat. Nice to have you here. I think Erdalf is listening, so maybe he's now actually having a look. But yeah, he's actually one of the authors together with Brains. He's helping out on Harmony. I'm not sure how much he's doing. Brains is Harmony, and Erdalf is now helping, apparently. I don't know. I'm sure he can tell you if he's still around. Or listening. Yeah, I think it's mostly just wider features. As in, there's more support for some other platforms and stuff, and everything just works a little bit better and stuff. But I think for us modders, I mean, it was started off as the modding thing, so I'm not sure if it's going to add very much. But hey, they're at office, so he can tell you all about it, hopefully. I'm curious myself. Anyway, back to this. So I have two options. I can either copy this bit of logic. So this is basically saying for the first 6 work type devs that you have the highest relative skills for, set everything to 3. And then if you, for anything other, yeah, so if it's not disabled and you order it by the average of relevant skills, then you set it to 3 for the 6 highest ones, and after 6 you just cut off. Then you go over the, what is that? Work type dev and all that's where always start active. Well, not sure what that applies for. Never seen that one before. I think that might be new as well. So apparently there are work types that always start active. I guess that's the basic bed rest, patient, firefight stuff. That sounds new. That's actually cool. I used to have to set that myself. I'm not sure how new that is, but yeah, seems to apply to us. Or okay, cool. Either way, I can try to copy that logic and put it in, or I can hack into it and instead of it having assigning a 3, I can have it assign something else. Alright, let's quickly catch up to what the plans for Harmony are. Yeah, ease of use, more edge cases, easier integration. Yeah, that all sounds good. It's going to make my impressive transpilers less impressive. Yeah, well, that might be easier. Like transpilers for the masses. Incompatible with Harmony 1.2. Yeah, I think there was. So we're talking about finding a particular sequence in Transpile. I saw some discussion about pull requests and stuff about helper functions for that already. That's been going on for a while, hasn't it? Yeah. All right. That also sounds very cool. Can I make one request? We talked about this yesterday, but can we have a debug version or like a debug flag where it fails quicker? Talking is difficult. It fails earlier. Because we talked about this yesterday. Because if you you make a typo early on in your traverse chain, for example, you use let's say a field instead of a property, then it will just return null or 0 without any error. I would really love it to tell me like, yeah, actually this thing you're trying to do, you can't do that. At least in a debug mode. I don't know how hard that is, but hey, it would make me very happy. I'm glad you like it, Odie. Again, if you have any questions or if you have like a suggestion, I'm also thinking about maybe starting either starting a mod from scratch and going over how everything like that is supposed to work, or maybe explaining my mods a little bit better. So if I could do like a theme night or maybe a theme week or something where I pick one of my mods and then we're going to work on that mod, and then to start off with, I'll just explain what's going on in that mod and how how things are supposed to work and what they're like. But I mean, only if people are actually interested in that kind of thing. So I'm just trying to figure out what my audience is and what people like to hear about. So I don't know if people just want to hear me stammering on and finding out difficult problems, or if you're here to maybe find out about modding a little bit yourself, or I have no idea. So, but yeah, let me know and just dumber than a brick about coding. Yeah, we all start somewhere. I started at the bottom as well. I mean, I had a little bit of coding experience with some different stuff, but like basic bare bones stuff. I just started modding, and I had loads of help from other people in the community, and now I'm trying to help others again. It's the circle of, well, not life, but coding, maybe? You can always go over other people's mods and say what they could improve and such. I don't think that would make me very popular. Yeah, but I don't want to offend you guys either, Code Optimist. So you're saying like you think of your audience as people willing to listen to whatever trash I have to say. I kind of feel like that sometimes. Like I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and it's awesome that we're chatting about this stuff and stuff. But at the same time, I feel like, okay, I don't understand why anybody would be willing to hang around here and listen to me blabber on for hours. But hey, it's great that you do, and I'm really enjoying it. So that's awesome. You'd be over it. Well, if you want to nominate your own mods, then I'd be more than willing to have a look at it, and yeah, maybe just give my thoughts and some constructive criticism and stuff. But if you have any kind of UI thing, then I can pretty much already tell you that I'm going to complain about boxes and lines that shouldn't be there and stuff. I have a habit of doing that. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Whatever floats your boat. I guess that's okay. I think I've decided I'm going to try and do a transpilation, which is basically going to lead to you guys laughing your asses off at how terrible I am at them. So what I want to do is these two calls, this line and this line. I want to change them, and I want to change this argument to be a 6, or in this case a 6, but to be the default I set. Did you make both? I honestly haven't looked at it yet, but I mean I saw the previews of it, and I mean if it plays anything like the preview looks and like what I imagine it to do, that is bloody amazing. I mean, yeah, that would be bloody amazing. Well, I've got some qualified transpilation people here, so yeah, yeah, fair enough, Randolph. I like complaining though. I don't actually like doing the work myself. Thanks for jumping in and explaining about Harmony 2, by the way. Okay. Do I have Harmony patches here already? Yeah, I do. So is this in work settings? Yeah, this is in work settings. And that's also where this stuff was getting created, right? Upon work settings, yeah. So now I'm also overriding enable and initialize. So I'm already basically hijacking all of this stuff. Ooh, something happened. Logger C4 is now following. Thank you, Logger C4. Nice to have you in the club. Smashville is now following. Wow, we're having a follow train. Awesome. Yeah. Right. So basically, what I've done so far in the work settings. So the work settings are basically the vanilla priority tracker, and what I'm doing is just saying I'm replacing the getter. So whenever somebody tries to get a priority through the vanilla means, I'm rerouting that to my own getter function. With the setter, I'm letting it through, with the idea being that if somebody were to disable my mod, Goblin Punch, also welcome to the family, thank you very much. So if somebody were to disable the mod, then the vanilla priority tracker is still there, it's running in the background, and it should be able to pick up again, theoretically. I'm not ever going to support that, but it should work. hopefully, maybe some of the time. Disable all is just more of the same thing. It's not all that interesting. It's just another way that priorities can be set. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to add a class here. I haven't used this in a couple of months, and I have a standard. So this is upon work settings, and this is enable and initialize.cs. I don't need to do .cs, it does that for itself. Right. Then we'll copy paste a little bit, because I always forget what this thing actually is. There. Yes. Onto that, and this is just enable and initialize. Actually, let's try this a different way, because I recently learned that you can use nameoff on that kind of stuff as well. So I'm not sure that will work here though, but yes, it does. The benefit of this is that it will fill earlier when RimWorld updates and that name gets changed, because then this reference just won't be correct anymore. Whereas if you use a string, then it will just fill silently. Anyway, so then we need to do this is transpiler, right? I always forget what this is. So this is a public static instruction something. It's probably a good idea to get the Harmony wiki up. Yeah, that one. There's an example somewhere as well, isn't there? Anyway, let's just have a quick look at this one. There was a full example for a transpiler. Somebody made that. All right, so this is the signature we're looking at. Let me just copy paste that. And this, I guess, is the same. I'll look at your question in a second, Goblin. I just want to quickly get this basic thing out, because otherwise I'm going to get confused. So this is just going to allow me to get any additional arguments and like class parameters, the same way that a normal patch would, right? So I can just leave that blank for now. And then this needs to return some instructions, so for now we can just have it return this instruction. That does nothing, that just returns what it gets. So there was a question, if you want to mod code a new coder, how does one start messing with how the cooler works via temperature? I'm more of a monkey see, monkey do. I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. Yeah, I figured. Okay, new cooler. That makes more sense. It's actually quite simple. If you look at the XML for it, If you look at the XML files for the base coolers, they all work with a component which is called a heat pusher component, I think. Which, yeah, it's just a couple of XML strings that tells you like, okay, how much power is needed for this cooler, how much heat is it take away or push into the room, what is the minimum maximum temperature and stuff like that. But it should be fairly self-explanatory. If you have a decompiler, which you definitely should, even if you're just doing XML modding, you can also look at the assembly and find what you're looking for. So in this case, we're looking at the comp heat. I think it is something. No. It's on the power maybe. Why are you not working at all? So these are heatif comps. There should be. Is it a thing comp? Yeah, it's a thing comp, but that shouldn't matter, right? Right. Comp float, thing comp, float. Why are there not other thing comps here? There should be many more than that. Anyway, if you're not under time pressure like I am, you should be able to find different comps here. This is what I was looking for, and I just power, battery, steam, water, wind, power trader, power transmitter. There's a heat pusher or something. Anyway, my point is that you can look at the properties for it, and then you can see what XML properties are possible for that one. So this is a bad example, but if we look at let's say comp battery, and that has comp properties battery, which these are the XML properties that you could use for that. And if you are a little bit aware of how code works, then you should be able to read or at least get some idea of how it actually gets used, which is always yeah, I code faster drunk as well. It's just has more bugs. Although sometimes you have this magic zone where you go really fast, and then it works, and you don't know how it works anymore the next time when you're sober. Right. Yeah. Okay, Adolf, that makes sense. So yeah, the transpiler is executed at patch time, so it's done once and it just changes the actual code of the thing. So it's not aware of any inputs or outputs of the function. Basically, it just changes what the function itself is doing, which does beg the question: what is the extra stuff I can put in there then? Like, what is this for? It follows the guidelines defined in patching. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but the instance is not applicable, result or state is not applicable. I guess you could try to read static private fields or something, or constant private fields. I mean, I guess you could do original method, but even that. Where was I? The transpiler. Why has it got the extra parameters there? What extra parameters could you give it then? Give it an IL intermediate language generator. Whoosh. This is so above my head. Anyway, what I need to do is look at the instructions. Yeah, I will need this. I need to look at the instructions. Yeah, the original method I got, not the, yeah, okay. I shouldn't need either of those though, right? What is an IL generator? Is that described anywhere? Oh, here we go. Right, never mind. I'm just not reading far enough. So this is, I guess this is important if you need to know if you're in like Mono or .NET or something, or what is going on there. Either way, I think I only need this one. All right. So you need the intermediate language generator for branching logic and other fun advanced stuff. Used for creating labels to set break statements to. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I'm trying to do this late at night. Work. This is pawn work settings that we're looking for. That's this class, and specifically we're looking at enable and initialize. That one. If I'm not very much mistaken, we should be able to see the intermediate language, or like the whatever, right? Show instructions, show method body. Is this what I'm looking for? Oh gosh, no. Hell no. Hell no. I've done this before, I just haven't done it in ages, so I don't know with the show instructions in hex editor. I don't want them in hex editor, I just want them somewhere. Anyone? Oh yeah, I'm definitely that person as well, Code Optimist. I just try things until they either break or they do what I want. I've definitely done this before, so I'm not sure why I can't get it to work anymore. Yeah, why is it? Is it just this? Yeah, it's just that. Okay. All right, so this is where things truly get magical. So these are the actual intermediate language instructions for this function. So it's declaring local values or local variables, and then it's just pushing and popping things off the stack. It's poof. Don't even get me started on explaining this. I'm sure there's somebody on YouTube who can explain that much better than I can. What we're trying to do is find instances of this function being used. And what we want to happen is to get the value, to change the value that it's using into a 6. So basically this instruction is pushing the integer value of 3 onto the stack. This is incredibly helpful, by the way, these tooltips. That's amazing. So this we want to replace. That's all we need. So is that actually a specific instruction? Because it doesn't look like it has like parameters on it. So there's just an actual specific single instruction to load the integer 3. Really? Or am I misinterpreting how that works? It's like the dot already. Okay. Orbits! Hey, yeah. Good to see you. Welcome to the chat. We're trying to figure out a transpiler. Yeah, but the thing is that the other ones have actual specific arguments. Anyway, let's just give it a try. We all of these I know it's very disappointing, isn't it? All of these instructions actually have corresponding actual classes, so it's not like we need to reference them by strings or something. So we can actually just look for them, which is fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for any calls with this one, so the instruction call function, and then check if the argument is like that particular function. And then we're going to look at the previous instruction and change it to the integer value 6, blah, 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 blah. Because what I don't want to do is just replace all 3s by 6s. That doesn't seem like it's a brilliant, good idea. Thanks for the follow, Orbit. There are specific instructions for a bunch of low value ones. Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, that's what it looks like. I wouldn't. Yeah, I was. It keeps thinking it gives you links. No, thank you, Code Optimist. I was going to get there eventually. It would have just taken me a lot longer because I don't remember like which specific classes I should be in, like access tools and things like that. And also the code's operand and things like that. Anyway, because I need to go back, I can't just go with the for each loop, so I have to actually use like a normal loop. So we'll just do a quick loop. Why am I typing this out? This is what these things are for. So it's instruct count. That's going to tell me I should use something else. Oh no, no. No, that's... Really? No. Interesting, but no. No, there aren't, Erdelf. At least I don't think so. So I think with the current implementation of this function, I should be able to just replace all instances of that, but I don't necessarily want to. So this is setting everything to 0. This is the link stuff. This is set priority. And this is the one with the 3, and there should be another one with the 3. There's more link stuff, get current, yeah, this is checking if it's not, and then this is the other one with the 3. And those are the only places that it's currently being used, but I would like it to be future-proof, so I don't think I should just replace all of these with 6s, or whatever value I want. Yeah, that's a good point, Fridge. It's probably easier to check the current instruction to see if it's the 3 thing, and then look at the next one instead of going backwards. Although I guess it really doesn't matter if I'm just looping over it. You have examples of patches very much like this in Alien Reese if you want to take a peek. Yeah, but I'm afraid of your patches. Because you know what you're doing and you have much more complex patches. Yeah, I'm also getting tired, Adolf. I'm just gonna try and quickly fix this, and then it's bedtime for me. RimWorld is written in C# Orbit. It's using the Unity engine, which means that it's basically in C#. Yeah. Really? I try to avoid the alien races transpirers. I looked at them once and then I was just awed by the complexity of it all. And also very, very scared. I try to stick to simpler implementations so that I can actually still understand what's going on. If you start with the really complex implementations, it's very hard to follow what's going on and actually very hard to lead to learn from it. Well, if you're looking right now, Orbit, that's because this is not C#. This is the intermediate language generated by the C#. So this is the actual C#. This is looking a lot more. Yeah, we were looking at the instructions because we want to do a transpiler. So in the RimWorld modding scene, we use Harmony, which is a very handy tool that you can use for all C#. But it allows you to actually change functions. So I actually want to change this particular function to use, it's hard coded to like set the priority to 3. And that's what this instruction is doing. And I want to change that to use a variable value. Anyway, I'm just gonna try and give this a go. First, let's create a list of instructions. Oh, why does my mouse even have that button? I never use that. Because lists are easier to work with than enumerables, and we're going to have to loop over them and change things anyway. So let's just bite the bullet and make it a list. Right, that's simple enough. Then this is a property and not a thing, and this should be instructions. Okay, this works now. So we're looping over all instructions, and what we're looking for is to see if a particular instruction this is a code instruction, right? Yeah, and that doesn't have to have like an opcode or something? What is it called? I thought it was an opcode, but maybe not. Oh yeah, wait. Duh. Look at the actual thing. Right, opcode. There we go. So that opcode should be call opcodes. I don't know what the class is called anymore. Yeah, opcodes call. Yeah, thanks, Optimist. Figured that one out. I think that's just it, because that's the same one that we're using here. Yeah, there's opcode, so it's not call I or anything like that. All right. Then we want to know if the argument to that is this particular function, right? So we need to get a reference to that function, and then we can compare it. Well, let's instruction, not let, again, JavaScript. For instruction is instructions y. This is I like actually using like long form names. Keeps things simpler in my head. Okay, so that opcode should be that. We can get the method we want before, so that's access tools. Thank you very much, Code Optimist. Method, and that will return the method info from what I want. So I can just use type of. Well, it's basically the same as there, but let's type it out. Upon work settings, name of upon work settings, set priority. And this is the set priority method info. Okay. So the opcode is equal to that, and so if this is the case, and the instruction operand equals the method info we've just gotten, then the previous one is the one we want to replace. Yeah. No, this is not the best way to do it. Let's do it the way Fridge suggested. Let's check forward. That seems like it's going to be easier. So let's check if the current instruction if that opcode equals opcode, and this was, what was it? Something with int LDC I43. Let's find out what it calls that. LDC I43. Oh, simple. That has no operand. If that is the case, then we need to look at the next instruction. Well, we're not using this enough to make this be useful. I+1 instructions I+1. So if the current instruction is to load the integer 3 onto the stack, and the next instruction is to call this function, then exchange the current. Yeah. So then we add instructions, push, add, almost there, new code instruction, opcode, LDC, no, not IC. So we can't do this. We need a different opcode where we can load an integer, pushes a supplied value of type int32 onto the evaluation stack as an int32. So this is the generic version of that. Yeah. So we need to use that one. And then we need to give that an operand. And the operand is just going to be... No, we can't do this. Because that's... We need to use a getter function for that then or something. Bugger. Because this is getting run once when you start the game. Yeah, you can write a helper function and call that. Yeah, I guess. But that makes things a little bit more complicated, because then I need to... yeah, well, okay, that's not too bad, I suppose. So if we make this a static int get default priority. Right, that's all we need. Yeah. And that will just return settings default priority. Then instead of okay, so this is, we need to get, again, we need to now have the have fun, Code Optimist. Thank you for being here. And yeah, hopefully you're around next time again. I really enjoyed chatting with you guys. So, all right, we need to get the method info for the get default priority method that we just created. Access tools methods type of. Can you use this here? No. Off the shop. Pawn work enable and initialize. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but at least I know this works, so I'm not going to. And this is just get default, that one. Okay, that's the method instance we want. Then we need to so instead of using this loading this integer onto the stack, we can just call that function, and that should load the result of that function onto the stack, unless I'm very much mistaken. So we say calls the method indicated by the past method descriptor. Yeah, and what is this? On the evaluation stack as a pointer to an entry point with arguments described by a calling convention. No, I'm not sure. Maybe you should be using callvert. Let's have a quick look. And this is using callvert. That's for the, is that because it's an instant thing or something? No, this is also an instance thing. Is vert just when you want a side effect? You'd want to push the return. Yeah, but what happens with the return? Like, how do I even access that? Yeah, but that's my point. I don't know what happens. What, like, how do I should probably just look at some of the examples. There's a transpiler. He's loading an argument on it. Then he's using opcodes call and then the method. That's basically doing the same what I was just doing. And then he's doing a break. That is break, right? That's like an if statement thingy. And this is my problem with it. I mean, reading other people's transpilers is just... Alright, so this is just calling... I don't know what this does. This is do window content, so that's also not returning anything. Smashville, if you have an example of basically calling a function to load a value onto the stack. Like, how do I call a function so that the value gets loaded onto the stack? Because all I'm seeing here is window contents functions, which return void. So those are using call, opcodes call. And I'm not sure if I should be using callvert or what the difference is there and when I should be using which one. I could probably find out, but let's have a look at this one. So world component, this is possible. There's no actual, I guess this is something else. Okay. Can also look at alien races, but that's just scary. Wait. Is it on CCL Reborn? Okay, that's new to me. Right, so source. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be great. Smashville. The harmony patches. Yeah, this is what I mean. And this is just not one patch. This is not 10 patches. This is hundreds of patches. These are all individual patches. And then they're not even just like a single patch. Many of them are like looping over pretty much the entire game code and then dynamically applying patches to specific situations. This is just ridiculousness. And it's like not creating a few instructions. No, it's adding entire blocks of code. Call is for calling non-virtual or superclass methods, where call vert is for calling virtual methods, and sometimes when the pointer needs to be checked against null. Hence why some compilers are compatible with a call vert, even if the original method is not a virtual method. Okay. Okay. When the pointer needs to be checked against null. So that basically means that... Okay, I can see why a pointer would be null for virtual methods, because it might not be defined on the subclass or something, and then you'd need to look at the parent or something. Why would a pointer be null in normal methods? I think I'm losing my audience because we're going way too in-depth on this. You know what? Let's just give it a shot, see what happens. We're just going to call this. New code instructions, opcode call, and then the operand is get default priority. That one. Okay. And you messaged me the link. Where did you message me the link? I don't seem to have gotten any message on Twitch. Right. Oh yeah, got a whisper. Thank you. Are you okay with me showing this on stream, or do you want to keep it private? Oh, you were another one of the hundreds of Harmony. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. How do you even get this many patches like in your mind at the same time? Look at that. Anyway, Beachmaker Transpiler. Let's just see if we can find that. Going to the instructions, if the opcode is call and the operand is a property with, yeah, okay, so the operand is getting oh, it's calling random in range on the float range. Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. I get that. That's fine. Then you're really iterating over it. So this means you're stepping over two things at a time. No, only when you go there. Yeah, I guess that's fine anyway. Yeah. Yield return new code instructions. Opcodes pop because you need to pop something off it. What do you need to pop off? I guess that's the... like the instance of the float range that you're working on, right? Yeah, okay. And then the operand is a method, so you're calling that instead. And this is, I guess, just an accessor function or something. All right. Yeah, this should be. I think this is basically this should basically be doing what I'm doing. My brain is melting, so I need to finish this quickly. So what I'm doing now is checking if this is indeed the thing I want. And so then I should be continuing here. And otherwise, we can just add instructions, add instructions I. Yeah, this is not gonna work. I can't do it like this is instructions in or something. And then we need to create instructions out is a new list. Oh. Code instruction, right. And then this needs to be instructions out. I'm sure there's a much more efficient way of doing this, but like I said, my brain is getting fried, so I need to wrap this up. It's easier to just yield it and send back each instruction one by one. Yeah, absolutely true. Yield. And then I don't even have to continue, do I? No, I do. I always forget how yielding... No, that can't work. What is the final yield return? Or is it just when the method is over, that's when it calls it done? Yield return... so that's just instructions I. Theoretically, that should do something. Alright. I am using somewhere in the controller, I guess. Yeah. Okay, I'm setting Harmony instance to debug if we're in debug mode. I'm just using the trick to execute all patches that are defined that way. Okay, so this should... It's not going to accept that transpiler? Well, let's find out. It'll be fun. You're still calling the original call instruction. Yeah, but I want to. All I wanted to do... what I wanted to do is change this one. Because this is loading 3 onto the stack. And what I want to do is load the default priority that I define onto the stack. And then I actually do want to call this set priority. Am I? Oh yeah. So now it should skip to the next instruction. Yeah, good point. I had that there, and I thought about it, and I said I should put it back, but I didn't put it back. Too many windows open. I'm just trying to get back to my desktop so I can remove the existing Harmony log. Reload that. Okay. So we should now be able to spawn colonists and get 6s there instead of 3s. Ha! Awesome. Trying to set work to invalid priority 6. Well, it was a start. Not sure where that comes from. It's not exactly first try, Smash. If I had been alone on this, it would have taken me 10 or something. I count you guys as my semi-compiler warnings. Alright, something is still going wrong there, I think. So this is my own patch. That's telling me to trying to set work to invalid priority 6. I think, yeah, that's happening because that's not technically a legal vanilla priority. And now just make it so you can set a default for each work type dev. Yeah, I can see that being useful, because one of the first things I do when I start a game is this. Do that one, and then, you know, set everything up like that. Yeah. I mean, that happens pretty much every time, so it would actually be useful to have like a row there above it that says like default, and that's what applies. Yeah, that's what applies to pawns that like don't get any other priorities. But that's for next time. I'm just quickly going to check where this comes from and see if I can remove that message or make it work in a way that seems to be more sensible. But yeah, the problem is that we're handing off priorities that are not normally allowed. So 6 is outside of the range of what the normal priorities are, is 0 to 4, to the vanilla function. So yeah, that's probably the thing that's complaining now. Is it this one? Yeah, this is the patch that I was looking at, right? Yeah, so this is calling set priority. No. Is this just coming from the default one? I guess it is. So this is a sharp, and then we're looking at set priority. Yeah, trying to set work to invalid priority. That's where it's coming from. So if it's outside of bounds, then it's just accepting it anyway. It's just giving us an error message. All right. Would it make sense to do an other transpiler to change the vanilla value to yours? You mean basically remove this restriction? What's the point? Like that would work insofar that it would allow the vanilla tab to work with values that are normally out of range when my tab is installed. So when the vanilla tab is not being used. So when you uninstall my mod, it would probably load the values that are out of range, but then it wouldn't actually be able to use them anymore. Or the first time you tried to change them, it would set them back within range, or something would just error. So I don't think that would work. What I can do is just intercept it here. So when I'm saying set priority, this is where I'm overriding it. Currently, I'm just leaving it. So I'm leaving this priority, and then we're running. Then we're allowing the default vanilla thing to run. But I should be able to change priorities. If I declare it as a ref, then I can say if, I can just say priority equals mathf max priority 4. Right? And then let it run. And then if people set the default priority higher, so if somehow we get an input that is higher, then we round it down to whatever is lower. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. About bad priorities. I'll just mark this, and maybe in 2 or 3 years I'll come back to it. Okay, that's another thing I need to look at. Because now it's trying to change priorities on disabled work types. And it's trying to set work to invalid priority 6. But I think that's just because it saved them before. So if I create a new pawn now, that shouldn't be happening anymore. But let's find out. No, it's still happening. Okay, I need to look at that. Maybe it would help if I set it to a minimum instead of a maximum. Alright, this is going to be the last thing I change. I'm going to commit this if it works now, or at least if it doesn't give terrible errors anymore. Yeah, okay, the invalid work types have gone away because it is not trying to set everything to... it's not trying to set everything to the default anymore. This seems to be working. We can spawn in pawns. And they start off at 6 without giving any errors. So this is going correctly. Yeah, that's some other stuff. It's just complaining about max limits. Okay, but this is working. Good. All right, I'm going to commit that. And then I'm going to call it a night. So thank you guys very much for sticking with me, even through the transpiler. I know that was an ordeal. It certainly was for me. But it worked in the end, and that's all that matters. So that's awesome. Hopefully you've picked up a thing or two, if not about transpilers, then at least about my abilities with transpilers. I'll be back soonish. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, and see you guys later this week. I won't be here tomorrow. I'll probably be here the day after, or on Friday again. But I'll drop a note somewhere, and I'll let you guys know when I'm back online. So thank you guys for hanging out. Have a good night, and see you later.